The Bears also fully back to work today. They will be out on the practice field tomorrow. No longer in Bourbonnais, Illinois. I do miss the days of training camps from a fan sort of perspective, right? Where, growing up, in Minnesota, the Vikings were always in Mankato. And then, in Chicago, you'd drive out to Bourbonnais. It was like an hour and 15 minutes from O'Hare. And different teams used to go. Now there's like only a handful of teams that go off-site. The Bears now are back. They got a beautiful field that's outside, surrounded by trees. Every now and then a train goes right by the field, which is an interesting thing. The Bengals also have the train that goes above the field, which is always because they have theirs basically underneath the highway, and so you'll catch those through. But I miss the days of going away. What I don't miss is when I get to go on my training camp tour, and pending the airlines being back online by next week, hitting 12 different teams in 12 days, the added hour and 15 minutes of driving to a place after you land at the airport, I can live without it. Yeah, in a lot of cases. I'll be the Colts are up in Westfield, Indiana. I will be at that one. The Steelers still go to Latrobe. Yep. I'm going there. There's a couple other ones that are still off-site that I know I'm going to be hitting as well. I enjoy it, again, for the scenery. Logistically, this is better. So the Bears are back home. Caleb Williams, of course, one of the biggest stories. I said my 5 biggest training camp storylines. It's not just Caleb. It's that whole Bears offense. It's the pressure that's going to be created because of all the moves that they've made through the course of the offseason, adding Swift and Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze, already having DJ Moore. They've drafted tight ends, it seems like, high for every year for a decade here. They've got a really big arsenal around Caleb Williams. But now let's see what it looks like when you're seeing it every day. Yeah. And when it's being covered the way that the Chicago media tends to cover the Chicago Bears. So here was earlier today, Caleb Williams.
Position to thrive, though.
He's absolutely.
So far, yeah.
This is the best. But it also, when you're in that, the pressure's on. Drake May does not have that pressure. No. Not this year in New England. Jaden Daniels, I think, does have some of the pressure, but it's not to this degree. Because I don't think people look at the Commanders and say they should be pushing, and they're definitely a team that makes noise in the playoffs this year. Chicago does have that pressure. They're not. Nobody can say they're like the surprise or the sleeper team. They absolutely have that pressure on them from go. So it all starts out with reporting day today with Caleb Williams. Here's what he had to say when talking about maybe what'll happen when he faces a little bit of adversity in training camp.
How will you keep perspective when inevitably there's some rough days out there on the practice field in training camp?
Yeah. I've had rough days. I expect myself to go out there. I think I'm the toughest on myself. I go out there and I'll mess up a play. I've thrown a pick in mini camp and things like that. Being tough on myself, but also having an understanding of where we are and where I am, and the progression, like I said before, is key. Those bad times, it's not a time to have self-doubt. That's just a waste of time. It's a time to keep growing, keep progressing, and keep believing in yourself.
I've been impressed with what I've heard from Caleb Williams, what I've seen from him in terms of how he's handled everything going all the way back to the combine. And during the pre-draft process, he did virtually nothing the way that every other prospect has done it, not doing his medical at the combine. He didn't throw. That's not totally uncommon, but he was out there, right? He was on the field. He was still interacting with people, with the other quarterbacks. Every time that he's spoken to the media, he hasn't done a lot of sit-down, one-on-one type interviews, but every time he's gotten up there in a press conference setting, from the first time at the combine when he had everybody around him, when he came over and did a one-on-one interview with me on NFL Network. And I just thought, for a guy who entered the NFL, and there were so many questions about all this non-football related stuff. And the people wanted to poke holes in Caleb Williams. It was about the brand and living in a penthouse in L.A. and painting his fingernails and driving certain cars and like all those things that made it seem like he was this celebrity quarterback who would just drop in and play games. The more the teams dug into it, the more they heard, no, he is around. He's not, showing up to class and then immediately leaving. First of all, he was showing up to class, but also he'd hang around and he'd have lunch at the facility and he'd see people and he would, bring his offensive linemen out to the Heisman Trophy ceremony. He would get, headphones for all his teammates and then realize, hey, the support staff deserve them too, and then go out and do something nice for them. Show up to the back of quarterback's birthday party, all those different things. And I think that what he's presented so far, publicly, knowing that he's going to be under an extreme microscope. I mean, this is a guy who, and I understand the gravity of what I'm about to say because I grew up in Minnesota in the 1980s and 90s. Timberwolves didn't start playing until 1989. So my idol in sports growing up was Michael Jordan.
Okay.
And I had Michael Jordan posters on the walls, and I wore Jordans. Everything Michael Jordan did was the biggest thing possible.
You were not alone in that.
I certainly was, yes. I mean, he was Gatorade, he was McDonald's, he was a human business, and still is. Still makes ridiculous amounts of money off his Jordan brand.
Off of me alone.
Caleb Williams has the opportunity to be the biggest thing in Chicago since Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And he is going to be handled by the media, by fans, like he has the opportunity to be the biggest thing in Chicago since Michael Jordan. In other words, with the great power comes great responsibility. And so to this point, he's passed the tests in terms of how he's just gone through things. And everything I hear behind the scenes in Chicago, going all the way back to their interactions with him prior to the draft, were all very positive. And the way that he's been around teammates, they sent him out to dinner with some of the veteran players as part of his top 30 visit. That's not a totally common thing that people do, but they wanted to see. And they got great reports back from the other players being like, yeah, we can rally behind this guy. Now the real work begins of actually being out there on the field. I would say the other thing that I'm entertained by, and this is in no way a critique. I'm not saying that this is a negative. I don't think we're in full Broncos country, let's ride territory. Or prior to that with Russell Wilson, go Hawks, which worked pretty well in Seattle for a long time because go Hawks after a win, pretty good.
Yeah.
They won a lot of games. Broncos country, let's ride. When you lose, not as great. And then eventually that became Broncos country. And then just walk it off. And then eventually it just became no sign off. But Caleb Williams, starting on draft night, has done something, signing off his press conferences. Here's his sign off. This is from today. Here's how he ended the press conference you just saw. Here's how he ended the press conference today.
As well as blocking, those guys get paid a lot, and maybe I'll be in the trenches a little bit more than they'd like to be. So, but all those things I'm willing to do.
Thanks, guys. The Bears.
All right, so the very quick the Bears.
The Bears.
Okay. So now let's go back to draft night, April 25th, 2024, after he gets drafted by the Bears. And here's what he said.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Caleb.
The Bears.
All right, so that one, little extra sauce on that one.
Like I told Feller, ever since that day, I've been singing it like that on this show.
I've been walking around the studio, as Hoskins knows. I've walked back past his office 5 times, and I've been going, the Bears.
Yeah, I've been doing that for a minute.
So
I never heard it so melodic before.
So, it's the hashtag, right, that they use on Twitter. It's what a lot of fans say. It goes back to a late 1980s SNL sketch, which everybody knows, the Superfans.
The Bears, the Bears, the Bears, the Bears.
Which was said in a certain different type of way. Just like that, right? That was how it originally began. So what I have to imagine is Caleb Williams was born in like 2002, I want to say, well after this was a thing. Mm-hmm. And so I imagine we saw it on Hard Knocks, for instance, where Drew Lock was asking the PR guys after he signed in the episode the other night, like, well, what's the saying? Do we have like a thing that people say, a hashtag or whatever? They're like, Big Blue, go Big Blue. He's like, somebody was like, bleep the Eagles. He's like, let's go with go Big Blue. And so he does that into the thing. I can only imagine somebody said to Caleb, or people were tagging him on social media and being like, the Bears. So in his head, it's not George Wendt. It's not Ed Swirsky. Wasn't that what it was? It's not, right. It's not that. He just sees the Bears. And so here are some of the various iterations of the Bears that we've gotten from Caleb Williams so far.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Go Bears. Awesome. The Bears. Thank you, everybody. The Bears. Thank you. The Bears.
So it's evolving over time. Yeah. None of those sound like the SNL sketch, but again,
The Bears.
You have to wonder, has he ever seen Ed Swirsky Superfans?
I never even thought about that until just now. Caleb put his own little twist on it. And
the Bears. Bill Swirsky, excuse me. Sorry, Bill Swirsky.
Bill Swirsky. Caleb put his own little twist on it. Now, I'm not a Bears fan, so I'd have to reach out to a Bears fan to see how they feel about the way he's saying it. But like I said, I picked up on it. I've been using it. I kind of like the melodic, the Bears. But, maybe, Tom, how stand-up comics, before they shoot a special, they'll go and they'll pop up, at a comedy club at like after midnight to work out their act, try out some jokes here and there before they're really ready to go film. Maybe this is just the Bears dress rehearsal for Caleb. He's trying to see which one of these sticks, which one gets the most response. So maybe that's why he's hitting us with a different one all the time, just to see, which way he's going to go with this.
It's definitely gotten quicker. It's gotten quicker over time, which is probably the right move. So then the next question becomes, does he do, like Russell Wilson, go Hawks, Broncos country, let's try? Does he do it after a loss? Now, the best idea you can have is just win a lot of games. Everyone will love it after the wins, but there is a choice that's going to have to be made.
Yeah.
I just like the reinterpretation through a different lens.
That's what artists do, Tom. They take something and they reimagine it in their own vision. You know? So I would think that maybe, after a win, we'll get the sing-songy one. Then after a loss, it just might want to answer the questions and be done like the Bears and be out. But, he wins, he's happy. He's going to draw that out a little bit, I would think.
The Bears.
That one right there.
That one. That's the one.
Thanks,
that's
everybody.
The one that's in my head all the time. And when now I see the Bears, it always in my head was, George Wendt. Now that's every time somebody, tags me and puts that hashtag in, I hear the Bears. That one. It's sing-songy. It's got
I'm telling you, if
nice little harmony to it.
If I was a Bears fan, that would 1,000,000,000% be my ringtone. Like every time I got a text message, you would hear the Bears.
I like it.
My phone rings, you're going to hear it. Somebody rings my doorbell, you're going to hear it. Especially, don't let them start winning. Then it's just going to be on for Caleb.
Or could that be the sounder in the stadium? Because there's different teams, the Vikings have the Galler horn, the Patriots have that the siren, right? Don't they have foghorn? The foghorn. The siren is that Pittsburgh? Somebody's got a siren. But imagine if before every third down stand, over the stadium loudspeakers, and the opposing quarterback just hears the Bears. You hear that? We were harmonizing right there, me and Caleb. But imagine that is some stuff that'll burrow in the back of your head. It's one thing just like, oh, this is noise. Just hearing Caleb over and over saying the Bears, I think can be extremely intimidating.
That's what I'm saying.
I dig it. I'm excited. I'm very excited to watch with Caleb Williams, just exactly how this entire thing plays out with the offense. One of my top 5 training camp storylines. We'll be seeing Caleb and the Bears. The Bears. Very soon.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.